But yeah, the first little period was really cool.
You polled a bunch of Brownlow votes as well, hey?
I did. I think there was a bit of spruik around how I think I was second favourite at one stage. I think I was coming second or third maybe when I broke my leg halfway through the year. And Chris Judd was out by a mile, so I don't think we were wheeling him in or reeling him in.
Well, who knows? Maybe it would have.
Nah, maybe. But that first period was magic. Really, really cool. And the derby, first derby's an experience. Playing in derbies,
huge.
Yeah, and that was an away derby.
Yep.
And you run out, and the Eagles chance up, and the first time you actually
hostile as, yeah.
You actually felt endangered. I don't feel half. I feel half threatened out in this footy field. Yeah, which is pretty cool.
I think people don't understand that with the derbies of how intense they are until you actually come over the line. Then you played so well to start on off with your career. Couldn't have really gone much better. And then the football gods have just gone, you know what? Let's reel it in, Barlow. Let's send Reece Palmer in skidding for a ball. Let's take out the shin. This is going too well. We've got to reel you in a little bit. Tell us about that game and that injury, and then we'll sort of go into like all the rehab stuff that you had to do to get back.
Yeah,
I was there as well for that game. Sorry,
so the game was done. Like we were out by a long way, and I remember the feeling. I hadn't really smelt the roses for the whole 5-6 months that I'd been at Freo. I just enjoyed the moment and enjoyed what the flow of events were.
You're just going great.
Life is good. Life is great. Like to be, and life levels itself out in different ways. But I remember I went back in that game. I started to think, how good is this? Like, this is magic. We're going to be in the top 4 at the end of this day, and I'm playing well. And my family was over from Victoria that weekend, and you're just like, it's a special time in your life. And then bang, quickly levels out.
Yep.
Went back and got the legs taken out. Broken, knew pretty quickly what had happened.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a shame.
But you got up to start off when you got hit, because where I was sitting at Subi Oval is I'm talking direct. It's burned into my head, seeing us 50 metres away, right in like the cheer squad bit.
Yeah.
And you stood up, and your leg on the angle that I was on just completely just went C-bend like this.
Yeah, so that's what I saw as well. Because I was like, I think it's okay. And I remember just wobbling it a bit like that. I was like, I got up. And as I put any sort of weight on it, it just went, separated. Quickly sat back down.
Yep.
And then said, all right, let's get this over.
Yeah.
And from there it was like, people often ask me, how you must just have been gutted because you worked so hard to get your opportunity, and that happens. But I had great gratitude for the fact that I think I'd signed a couple of year contract, and if that had happened to me 12 months earlier,
it would have been would have been stressing a lot more.
Because the recovery, I don't think I would have passed medicals and.
Yep. And also, if you haven't got that sort of game experience that you've come and done that, you ain't getting past. Like you said, the first lot of medicals and just ticking boxes for it.
So I'm a full-time athlete, getting paid to recover and put time into my rehab. I had some darkish moments throughout the rehab, but the gratitude was fairly overwhelming for the situation I was in.
Yeah, and then the rehab process, what were you doing? Who were you working with? How long did it take? Because for some people, that can be like an injury that, you don't actually come back from. You mentioned that you went through some really sort of dark periods and patches with it. What were you doing physically in terms of the rehab? And then also, what were you doing mentally to get yourself through that?
Great, yeah, it's a really good question. It's something I should document, and kind of, because the older you get and the further away from it you get, you forget little patches of it.
Yeah.
But I remember 3 or 4 significant moments of it. When I first did it, I was very lucky to have a couple of guys. I think Michael Voss, Nathan Brown, Gary Lyon were 3 guys that had broken their legs in their careers, and they all reached out and said...
Do they really?
Yeah, so Voss and Gary Lyon had no issues with their leg.
Yep.
When they broke it, recovered, I think it was like 3 to 6 months, they were back playing and no worries.
How did they reach out? They call you?
Yeah.
Wow.
There was no Instagram. It wasn't the dark ages, but
yeah.
I think they just rang or messaged on your old cell phone.
Oh, wow.
And away you
Amazing.
go. Yeah. And Nathan Brown was the outlier of that discussion. He rang and kind of talked through. He was really adamant with me. Take your time. Ideally, you kind of have no issues when you come back. But he goes, he rushed it. He came back after, I think, 9 months and was crooked and not in a good space physically for the next 12 months. So you get those 3 bits of advice. So I'm automatically thinking, Brownie, thanks for ringing, but I'm going to take the other two's sample size.
Of course.
Because they were
That
perfect.
sounds way more positive. Yeah.
But mine, unfortunately, was probably more like the Nathan Brown situation. I took a while, probably took me 2 years. It took me 2 years to be pain-free in my leg.
Yep.
And
That's when you started sort of stringing more games together.
Yeah.
Was that like end of 2012?
Yeah,
2013?
I'll never forget the day. Middle of 2012, we played Richmond.
Yep.
I think I'm nearly certain it was a really significant day for the club because we beat Richmond at the MCG, and it was the first game in that era. We wanted to be this anywhere, anytime team.
Yep.
And I think you've followed Fremantle long enough to know it's all good in theory, but whenever Freo used to play away, it was like, oh,
No good.
yes, it's gonna be open. But Ross was great at encompassing this. Wherever we go, whoever we play, it doesn't matter. We stick to our trademark values and we commit to our style and we win. Or we play that way and give ourselves a chance.
Yep.
And that day, Sandilands went down and John Griffin played at ruck the whole game and killed it. There was no Nat Fyfe. Matt De Boer played as a midfielder and killed it. Pav kicked 6. And it was really wet, a miserable day against Richmond, and it had all the tailings of
Hardcore back to the wall. Yeah.
But the narrative had always been Freo will just crumble here, and we just kept coming and coming. Zach Dawson did his knee and was to miss 6 to 8 weeks afterwards, but played through the game. I remember that day significantly for that period. That set up our next. That was a day where I think that belief and the confidence in what we were building was established.
That breakthrough moment, yeah.
But also I remember playing that game and feeling really comfortable in my body. And I was like, this is amazing. And I remember going to bed that night thinking, oh, that's great, but I'll wake up tomorrow. And usually
see how it feels,
24, 48 hours after the game, I could hardly walk. But this one, I was like, oh, I can actually walk around and I feel quite normal. And I don't know what it was, but it was about 24 months after I'd broken the leg that eventually I think everything had caught up to itself and, the muscle and all of that. I actually felt really confident and comfortable in what my leg was.